right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the May Community Lunch Hour for the Community Foundation of Central Wisconsin. I'm Jenny Regenbach, and I am really thrilled to have with me today Ann Vang and Cindy Yang. Um, so what we're going to be talking about today relates back to a fund that was started here at the foundation in 2020, and that is the Qhia Together, Help Together, Teach Together Scholarship Fund. And it was established in 2020 to coincide with Hmong Week. And so Hmong Week was established to celebrate a new generation of Hmong leaders with an emphasis on helping young people see their dreams reflected in each other, whether that's an educator, an artist, even a culinary leader, or an entrepreneur. And the scholarship was established to support youth and adult Hmong descendants to achieve their educational goals, whether that be a traditional 2-4 year or advanced degree, or even a certificate or other learning opportunity beyond high school. So today, Ann and Cindy are going to tell us about both. And to get us started, I want to just welcome Ann and welcome Cindy. Thanks for being here. And as two remarkable leaders in our community, I'd like to start our conversation by learning about each of you. So I think, Cindy, why don't you get us started by telling us a little bit about your journey and the work and community efforts you're engaged in today.
Thank you, Jenny. Hi, everyone. I am Cindy Yang. I work for CAP Services, the Family Crisis Center, as the Hmong coordinator through the Hmong Family Strengthening Program. I have been with CAPS for 5 years now. Work specifically with domestic violence and sexual assault within the Hmong and Southeast Asian community. So yeah, I've been here for 5 years doing this work. I've been chair of Hmong Week for the last 4 years now. So it's been great to bring this to the community.
Wonderful. Thanks, Cindy. Ann, how about you? Can you share a little bit about your journey and the work and community efforts you're engaged with today?
Sure can. Thanks, Jenny. Hey, y'all. My name is Anva. Pronouns are she, her, hers. I feel like I am all over the place here in Portage County. I work for 2 different organizations. I work for an organization called Groundswell Conservancy. I work remotely, but they are located in Madison, Wisconsin. And then I also work part-time with Central Rivers Farm Shed, and I've been here for going on 3 years now. I am now the Shipa director, and the program that I run here is a culturally specific program. And initially started off with the meal program, which was a response to COVID-19 and ensuring that Hmong seniors in Portage County were receiving meals. And then when I started on my first year here, I had this really big vision of getting these meals into the lunch program at school. So we've been working with the school district, specifically at SPASH, for the last 3 years to get 50 meals once per week to students at SPASH. It is a first come, first serve. We are just finishing up this school year. We want to ensure that we are aligning it with the seniors. So what I do is I do a lot of agriculture support, specifically for the Hmong community. And I continue to do that. And I never imagined myself in agriculture work. If you asked me like 3 years ago, I would be like, no. But it came very organically, and I love what I'm doing now.
Well, thanks, Ann. Thanks, Cindy. Again, both two remarkable leaders. When we think about leaders that look like us, they look like both of you. So thank you for all that you do in the community. Cindy, I think you're going to tell us a little bit about Hmong Week, the history, and what people can look forward to.
Yeah. So Hmong Week 2024.
Do you want to share your screen? Okay, awesome.
Yeah, just gonna share my screen here. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Is everyone able to see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay. Let's see.
Here we go. Okay.
Sorry, I got a little eager when I had to schedule. So Hmong Week 2024 is scheduled for this week, actually, the 16th through the 18th. That includes Marathon, Wood, and Portage County. Kind of a history of Hmong Week. Hmong Week started in 2019 by founders of the Qhia Scholarship. This started as a collaboration between local community organizations such as Create Portage County, Freedom Inc., and the Portage County Literacy Council. With many of the founders being employed by CAP Services at the time, Hmong Week was naturally housed there. The mayor of Stevens Point provided a yearly proclamation for this event. This event started as an educational piece to Qhia Scholarship. During the week of the event, the scholarships would be talked about and donations were sought for. The theme that has been dubbed Success Looks Like Me was to show that success looks different to one another. The first year, we wanted to highlight the success of folks who once lived or currently live in Portage County. We did not highlight their education, however, highlighted their career. We wanted folks to see that if higher education isn't for them, it's okay. The theme continues to be the same, however, the stories are unique and the folks with different backgrounds, education, level, and careers are highlighted. Although many communities are celebrating Monday, Wood and Marathon counties have been invited to celebrate this week in their communities. The hope is to continue to grow it with more counties throughout Wisconsin. Since the start of the annual event, many new partners are invited and encouraged to participate in the planning and execution of the week-long event. We hope that everyone has enjoyed each year as we have enjoyed providing education and opportunities to those around. And again, this year has already started. I do want to share the sponsors that we've had for 2024 and the partners that were able to make this event happen. I'm not going to go through every one of them, but here's just a list of sponsors and partners. And then again, we start May 16th with success stories, what success looks like me. And it is to be a virtual event aired at 5 p.m. on our Hmong Week Central Wisconsin Facebook page. The link is above also if you'd like to see it. It is a pre-recorded, so you don't have to be there at exactly 5 to watch it. Watch it at your convenience. And then on the 17th is food night from 5 to 7 within Wood. Wood County is at First Congregational Church. Portage County is at Spash and Marathon County is at the Hmong American Center. However, registration has closed as of Friday. So sorry if you weren't able to sign up this year. Hopefully next year you'll be able to sign up.
Cindy, can you describe a little bit about what people can expect at food night?
Yep, so with food night, we'll have a demonstration and folks are will be participating hands-on. It will be a curry dish, so you'll learn how to make curry. We have an instructor that will be there to teach you from cutting to actually doing the cooking. And then you'll get to enjoy whatever you made for that day. I know that in Portage, there will be sesame bowls also that will be provided. And then in Wood County, there will be a squash to kind of give you a feel of what uh, folks do eat as a refresher. And then Marathon County is spring rolls that they will be teaching.
Very good. And for those that might want to think about this next year, could you talk a little bit about how someone might find out about how to register in the future?
Yep, so once we have our planning completed, we usually have a registration. for the event. We'll also air it on our Facebook. Facebook has been our bigger social media of how to engage with folks. So an event will be created and then registration will go out. It will also be on flyers. And we definitely try to market it as much as we can with just sharing it with community members as well. But yes, registration, we usually, depending on how quickly we start the process, we try to leave registration open for as long as possible.
Great. And I see Kaying put in the link in the chat in case anyone's interested in grabbing that Facebook page and starting to follow it now. Wonderful. Thank you.
And then we have our big event, Party in the Park, that will be at Piffner's Band Shell this Saturday from 1 to 8 p.m. Performers and open mic throughout the day with merchant vendors, resource tabling, and food vendor available as well. This year we have actually invited traditional Hmong dancing groups to participate. So we will have them throughout the day. So there is 4 teams with 2 songs each. So come enjoy the day with us. All these events are free events. So you don't have to be there for a full day on the 18th. Pop in and visit and just hang out with us, and make sure to bring seating. Um, Fortunately, we won't have benches or anything, so blankets and lawn chairs are definitely welcome.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds like a great day, and hopefully the weather cooperates like it did this weekend. So wonderful. All right. So now I think we wanted to, oh, go ahead. Sorry, Cindy.
Sorry. And this is just a flyer for the week that we have. It just lists everything for the 3 days of what we'll be doing. And our artist is at the bottom that will be performing.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the artists that are coming besides the dancers?
Yeah, so we have ZPX, a well-known artist. He's from Minnesota. And then we have E.T. Yang from Madison. He's been doing music for quite some time now. And then we have Vicky Yang, Tevin, Max Kang, and Lee Dong. They're more up-and-coming artists. So we definitely wanted to uplift them any way that we can and to help promote them into their careers.
Wonderful. And I'm sure there's probably more information on the Facebook page about sort of order and schedule for the day.
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay. So now I think we wanted to talk a little bit about what success looks like, right? And then, Anne, do you want to get us started with this part?
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Go back.
Yep. So, for when we started this back in 2019, I believe it was the year before COVID, we were thinking about how do we highlight folks from Portage County, past or present. And we decided collectively that yes, higher education is important, but for this year, for the first year specifically, we wanted to highlight these folks who where they are now, not necessarily their education level. And so it was a pleasure. I was able to do 2 out of the 3 interviews, and we were intentional with choosing a couple of different ones. We were looking at a young adult, someone who was around my age, and someone who was a little bit older, and we identified a couple of them. Diane Moore, it was a pleasure interviewing her. I was not very happy with her because as I was interviewing her, she was actually putting together a crepe cake. And of course, she resides in Minnesota, so I had to sit here and drool and talk to her, and I didn't get a piece of that cake. But today, Diane Moore has just opened up her very own restaurant called Diane's Place. And what I love most about Diane is that her journey to where she is now has been working in restaurants, being James Beard finalist. But where she is at now is she really takes a piece of her childhood and incorporates it into her cooking. So her parents own a farm in Junction City, and they grow things for her produce, and they actually bring it to her restaurant so that she can utilize that into her recipes. I know that it's for her place right now, it is super hot. It is like one of the places that you need to try out, but she is always booked out. So if y'all want to try, she is in Minneapolis. Again, it's called Diane's Place. I would highly recommend it. She does a lot of pastries. She has drinks. And her dishes incorporate a lot of the food that she grew up eating, or even just using the products that she grew up growing on her family farm. And then
Am I remembering right too? Didn't Diane have a piece in the New York Times a few years ago?
yep. Yeah, Diane has been all over the place with her James Beard finalist. And then she's always been a pastry chef, and she works for different restaurants in Minneapolis. So she's been highlighted in quite a few places. She was also featured on, is it Sunny something, the YouTube food guru? Yep. So he came out to the family farm, and there's also an episode.
Very good. Yeah, and it sounds like she's been open a little over a month, and it's a pretty hot ticket in Minneapolis right now.
It is, yes.
Great, wonderful.
Can I also add something fun? I think it's her sister maybe that she is helping teach. So I think you can access pastries that are similar to maybe what she's providing here locally in town too.
Yes. So her sister also bakes, but her sister doesn't do the traditional pastries that you see in bakeries. Her sister actually makes an Asian sponge fruit cake. So it's not spongy like you would find for angel food cake, but it is spongier. It's slightly sweet, but it's not overly sweet. I am very privileged that every time she's got extras, I always go over there and pick it up for myself. But yes, so her family comes with like a long line of cooks and bakers.
Awesome. And where can someone actually buy that sponge cake in town?
She usually will post it. It is a lot of work, very tedious. I had to help her, and I can tell you, just slicing up all the fresh fruits and everything, it is a very tedious process. I think she just had her last sale this past weekend for Mother's Day. And I know she might be opening it up for Memorial Weekend too. Right now she doesn't have a page. She is at a at-home baker at the moment.
Okay, we'll get that information to everyone. Thanks. Thanks, Kaying.
And then the next person that we highlighted was our young person here, Kurt Howe. He is an amazing artist. The first year that we had Hmong Week, we had his paintings and his drawings, and it was all highlighted and on showcase at the Rose House. He didn't take anything with him when he moved to New York, but he had everything stored at his mom's house in Appleton. So we drove out there and we went through a lot of pieces as to, like what he was comfortable with the showing and what he would, getting the story behind it. And what he's doing. I'm not really sure what Kurt's doing now, but I know when he was here, he is really into the arts and designing and different things. And now he's in New York living his best life out there.
Wow, amazing. Wonderful.
And then we have our third highlight, and she has joined us. So I will let Diana talk.
Diana.
Hi, you guys. I'm Diana Vang. Sorry, I missed part of this. So, I do own a small business in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. I own Diana Brow House. I was there for about 3 years. I don't know if Fanny covered this part, but I've since relocated. I currently live in Las Vegas, which is why I had to be smart about my time. So I work in education. I'm a high school counselor by trade. And then I tattoo eyebrows on the side, but I moved back for my dream job here. So I'm a college and career specialist here. I'm back at my old high school because I was living here back in 2019 through 2021. And then we were expecting baby number 3, which is why we moved back to Wisconsin, and then opened up our small business in downtown Point. And then when this job opened up, I was like, oh man, I gotta go back. And so we're back here in Wisconsin, or in Nevada, and then I come home in the summer times to continue working on our current clients. And so our students here and staff are just so mind blown that they're counselors / like college career specialist tattoos on the side.
That's awesome. You have quite the following of eyebrow tattoo. I hear about you all the time, so it's a pleasure to finally meet you.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you guys.
Yes. So Diana, can you tell us a little bit about some of the things that when you think about, especially now living between 2 places, like some of the things that you find very unique and special about Portage County?
I will say it's like I grew up there. I was born in Eau Claire, but have lived there since I was probably like 3 years old. My favorite thing is just how inclusive the city has been. When we lived there, we were off of Franklin and like Union, and I loved being able to go to the concerts every Thursday. And when we actually first moved back, we moved back in the summertime, and my son, who was I think 7 at the time, was kind of freaking out because we didn't realize that those concerts were happening. And so he would come to Lim and be like, Mom, I'm hearing voices. And I was like, what are you talking about? I started getting scared. And he's like, I'm hearing voices, Mom. And I'm like, where are you hearing these voices? He's like, in my room. And I'm like, and I would go and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I happened to go to my porch. I'm like, oh, you can hear the music from the park. And then he was like, oh, that's what I was hearing. Here I was freaking out. Like, he's hearing voices. Like, is someone living in their closet? I don't know. But we love being there. I'm probably one of the very few who grew up there and have always wanted to move back there and live there and raise my kids there. I'm a product of the Stevens Point Area School District, and I had really, really incredible and amazing educators, and that's what led me into education as well. But it's always been a very like accepting place, and I know that leaders like you guys and you guys do your part to make it inclusive for those who are new to the place too. But it's I look back fondly my time there, so I'm excited that I can return every single summer, and I really enjoy the lively downtown too.
Awesome, thank you. Well, while we have Diane for a few more minutes, because I know she's going to have to go, and we have Cindy and Ann for a little bit longer, I just want to encourage anyone who would like to either raise their hand, get into the conversation, ask a question, chat a question, whatever you're comfortable with. And Diane, while we kind of wait to see others that might jump in, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your journey to being a school counselor as well.
Sure. So I was in 8th grade. I was at PJ Jacobs Junior High. My teacher at the time was Mr. John Weisbrod, and I've always been a really, really quiet kid. So I would never raise my hand. I would never, I don't think I raised my hand in class until I was a junior in college. Mm-hmm. And so that meant that I would go home and be like, oh, I don't know how to do my homework, but I knew I should have asked, but I don't know. I was so quiet and shy. I would rather go home and try to learn something on my own than ask a teacher a question in class. And so, but in 8th grade, my English teacher had us record ourselves, or had us give speeches, and he had recorded one of mine, and it was about how to bake brownies. And so he showed it to the class, and he was like, this is what a great speech looks like. You guys watch. And I hate giving speeches. So I was just like, I can't believe he thought that was a good speech. But then he had nominated me to be a peer helper at PJ Jacobs, and that really opened the door. And I tell people that changed the trajectory of my life, because he nominated me to do that, and then that got me involved in a lot of camp counseling. Mm-hmm. So I became a camp counselor, I became a camp mentee first, and then became a camp mentor next. And then by the time I was in high school at SPASH, I was a part of, if you guys recall, Allison's Sexual Assault Lands. And then we started doing traveling plays throughout Wisconsin to, we acted as all these characters in Alice in Wonderland. But then it was based off of sexual assault, underage drinking and stuff like that, date rape, drugs, the dangers of that, how to stay safe and whatnot. And then sorry, someone's calling my phone. It's another counselor. But aside from that, that kind of got me into community service. And then my parents are also very strict when we were growing up. They were afraid that we would get kidnapped and so like they came here as like war refugees. So they just were kind of like, I don't know if we can trust you being alone. We need to be there. And so I found out by like, 8th grade that if I wanted to get out of the house, I had to volunteer. And so that's what jump-started me into volunteering, just so I could get out of the house. Because our parents were like, you can hang out with friends. What if you get kidnapped? And so then like that was my way of being able to just kind of be involved and in the community, while also like not having to just stay home and like babysit my siblings. And then once I got to college, I went to UW lacrosse, and then I majored in interpersonal communication. And then shortly after that, I went to the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater for my master's degree in counseling. And fun fact, I like still kind of keep in touch with my school counselor from 7th grade. And so I think she kind of planted that seed, because I remember when we were 7th graders, she had created this group for just Hmong students. And we were like, oh, yay, we get to go meet with her and not go to class. And it was really neat. But then like she had like fun activities for us to do and whatnot. And so as a kid, as a student, you just think to yourself like, oh, cool, I can go hang out with people who are like me and like talk with someone, and someone kind of guides the conversation. But then it's not until I was in school as a counselor that I was like, wow, how incredible that this woman like knew back then that, hey, I think there's this pocket of students who are longing to feel like they belong, and I need to host a group just for these specific Hmong students. And I just remember thinking like, wow, how incredible that she was like, hey, there's a need, and I want to address that need. And so I still keep in touch with her. Eventually, I went to counseling, and it's been fun. I've been with a charter school in St. Paul, and then I moved to Minneapolis Public Schools for about 2 years. And then my counseling job in Las Vegas opened up back in 2019. So I was there for 2 years, and then moved back because we were expecting baby number 3. And then I took a break from education to do brows. And then once this new job opened up, I was like, oh, I gotta go there, because I work under a GEARP grant, similar to, if you guys have heard of like Upward Bound and Trio. We have the GEARP grant here. And so I worked with GEARP grants in other capacities at other school districts. And I was always like, man, I want that job. So then when this one came up, I was like, okay, we got to go back. And my husband was like, are you serious? We just did this. And so we moved back, and it has been, it has proved to be, everything that I thought it would be and more. So it's been fun. So I'm very fortunate that I get to come back every summer and then do my other love, which is tattooing eyebrows and whatnot.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations on it all. It sounds like you're balancing a lot of things in your life and that you love every part of it. I think we have a question. Actually, Shamira, are you Samira? I think yes.
Yeah, this is Samara.
Samara.
Yeah, that's fine. I work at UW Stevens Point. I'm in the Wisconsin Center for Environmental Education in our K-12 energy education program. And one of our important parts of our work is being able to connect with all communities of Wisconsin so that we are equitable in reaching the K-12 students from diverse backgrounds. And one of the wonderings that I've had is what are some good ways for us to connect with the Hmong community so that especially when it comes to energy education, we know that the energy burden falls inequitably, and being able to provide that energy education, especially to communities that are either newer to this country or maybe don't have English as a first language, so that they and their kids can learn about energy and save on their utility bills and such. Like, who are the right groups that we can reach out to in central Wisconsin for?
I would say this one, absolutely, especially with Ann and Cindy. There's a lot of outreach that happens through CAP services. I know that. And so I would say, continue to partner with them. I think, every, no matter what field we're in, outreach is always the hardest part. You'll hear all the time, families who are like, I need this, I need this, I need this. And then you host a workshop and like 2 families come, right? Like that. That's just kind of the reality of the work that we do. And sometimes it's tabling at events such as like the Hmong New Year's. I know it's always tricky because people, like they're like, there's this need, but when you table, then people just kind of come, look, and then walk off. But being visible is always important. And then on top of that, I would say, you know, even like I don't know how things are at Spash. If you guys are able to like do workshops there, I know here at my high school in Vegas, we do workshops constantly. So then like I host like gosh, like 3 to 4 a week, and we have like really good partnerships with like, you know, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI. We get really cool presenters here. So if you're able to do presentations at Spash, where it's like a pullout where you would pull them to like the auditorium or something and just like, you know, give a quick spiel. Here's some really neat information we want to share with you guys. Here's a flyer to go back home. I would also, at least in my experience, flyers that are translated to Hmong often is just a bunch of writing that no one reads, because it takes a long time to read it and make sure that you're understanding the correct enunciation, because one word can be easily misunderstood into something else if there's a wrong letter at the end. So just keep in mind that a lot of times if you're working with these students, a lot of these high schoolers especially, they don't even speak Hmong anymore. They can kind of understand some tidbits of what mom and dad are saying, but they cannot speak a full sentence. So if anything, like anytime any mail comes in, the mom and dad are the ones going, hey, what does it say? Read it to me, because it's in English. So keeping, you know, that information in English is still helpful, because these kids are gonna, you know, interpret it to the parents anyway. It doesn't hurt to just have some things in the Hmong language and just put it on like your website. But other than that, I would say, you know, just trying to put yourself out there, especially when there are Hmong events that are happening around town, is always beneficial. People, you know, especially younger people, love going to vendor tables when there's candy and presents. You know how it is. So just things to keep in mind, you know, like people come and they see a flyer, they just look at the table and they'll keep going. But if they come and see something that, you know, is edible, they usually will stop by and ask a question or two.
Those are great tips. Wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll work with our partners to see if we can have that visibility at some of those events. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and Kaying added a couple more great things to the chat. One is CAP Services Uplift Program that Cindy works with. And then the beautiful story of Ann Vang and her journey that Love Wisconsin recently did. So I encourage you all to check those things out. Any other questions anybody would like to jump in on? Okay, well, Diana, thank you so much. You're welcome to stay. There might be some other questions coming up, but I also know that you're in the midst of a busy school day. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for having me.
Yep, bye-bye. All right, well, Anne, I think we're going to talk next about the Qhia Scholarship, which has awarded 6 scholarships since it was started in 2020. And it's a pretty unique scholarship fund that we have here at the foundation. Do you want to tell folks about that?
Yep. Cindy, can you share? So a little bit about the scholarship is, I think me and the other co-founders, I think we've always dreamt about having our very own scholarship here for Portage County Hmong residents. I think being the first generation of children of refugees, we understand like the importance, and our parents always telling us about higher education, like we should do this, we should do that. But we wanted something to really be specialized just for us so that we can tell our story. And when we thought about this, it's like, okay, but what does it look like? We understood what the importance of having very little to no barriers that were attached to these scholarships. And in the end, we decided that we were going to do a couple of different tracks. We were going to do tracks for the traditional students, non-traditional students, and then we also came up with what we call the Dreamers Scholarship. And with the higher education, scholarships are a little bit more, and then the Dreamer was a little bit less. But we recognize that not everyone is going to go into higher education, and a lot of times there wasn't the monetary support for these folks. And so with the Dreamer grants or the scholarship, it really is for anything that you can imagine, as long as it wasn't for a higher education course. So we have a lot of Hmong artists, like you can see on the flyer for this weekend. Is there a specific class that you wanted to take to, you know, further your career in singing or another artist thing? Or is there a course that you need to take to be licensed to do something, you know, like what is your dream? And there really wasn't any restriction. So, you know, I often tell folks like, hey, you really want to move out on your own. You have almost enough for your apartment. That's your dream, is to live on your own. Like, have you ever considered this? You know, and so it's like, use your wildest imagination for the Dreamers Scholarship, because it really is something that you can use towards your dream. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to give this out yet, but I am hoping that we can give them out, that there is going to be interest and applicants for this. But our other two scholarships, like Jenny said, we have given out 6 so far. And what I love most about this is that there's no essays, there's not a GPA requirement, no minimum. We recognize that some students just aren't, how do I want to put this? They're not, they're like for me, I'll use myself as an example because I'm horrible with this. So I can never put my thoughts into words that make sense. And so I hated applying for scholarships because they always included an essay. So what we did was we have a form. They're very simple questions. And if you didn't want to answer those and you rather do a submission, a video submission, all you had to do in your video submission was to answer those same questions. And so you have those options to do it. Cindy, can you go to the next slide? And then for the scholarships, the requirements were that you are of Hmong descent, residing in Portage County. And so when this first came out, we had a lot of questions from college age students where they're like, well, you know, like I go home for breaks, but I'm here all year long, even during the summer. Like I'm still a resident here in Portage County. Am I eligible? And we're like, well, if you're living here for majority of the year and you're going home for breaks and stuff, it's as if someone's living here in Portage County and going away for vacation. So you are eligible. You know, like if you are deeming yourself as a resident of Portage County, then yes. And so it has been a journey. I have been on the committee since the very beginning. So I've had the pleasure of seeing all of the applications. And many times there were actually video submissions, which I love because I don't think in essay you really get to see their passion when they are giving you their answer to that question. And so I get to see young folks submitting, non-traditional folks submitting, and their answers to these questions go beyond like what is your higher education needs, but it's more, tell me about yourself as a person and what are your goals, what do you want to do, and how do you get there, you know. And so really tell me your story. We love to hear stories, and so that has been a highlight for our scholarships. There really is just not just a story, but there is a story that goes beyond words. Every now and then we do get updates from our scholarship recipients, and it's nice to see where they are and what they're doing and what their plans for the future are. I am so excited to say that we also have a recipient of one of our scholarships with us on today. So I will pass it to Kaying so that she can talk a little bit about that.
Oh, Kaying, you're muted.
Unmute.
There you go.
Okay, perfect. Hi. So before I talk about my journey, I just wanted to go back a few hundred years and just acknowledge that where we came from as a culture, as a group. Diana mentioned things like, and Diana's actually my sister, fun fact, that our parents were afraid that we would get kidnapped when we were children. And that was not something that was crazy. There were issues of, as with refugee and any vulnerable populations, like higher rates of human trafficking, of challenges with assimilation. And also, as many people may know, we are the products of war and trauma and migration. I remember talking to my grandfather, and one of the things that he was most grateful for is having shoes. Like, he didn't have shoes until he was well into his teens. And so that's also where I want to acknowledge the power of having people like Anne and Cindy be in positions of leadership of where they are now and the ways in which they are really giving back to the community and growing who we are as people and our potential. And so I think it's just so powerful to have folks like you, Anne and Cindy, here today. And I will talk a little bit about being a scholarship winner. So this was as the pandemic was still raging, and it was a really tough time in my life. I had just gotten divorced. I was in my late 30s and living with my parents. And I was struggling with a lot of mental health issues. And so the scholarship came at a time where life was really difficult for me. And it was very affirming to be able to be part of that process and to feel like I had some sort of accomplishment. Um, and yet, I will also rewind back maybe 5 years prior to that. I was in a really different place in my life. I had been in a more financially abundant space. I was actually giving money to scholarships on behalf of my family. I was volunteering, I don't know, enormous amounts of time, like 5 to 15 hours a week for the Hmong American Education Fund, which was giving out scholarships both in Minnesota and nationally to Hmong students. And so with that, I acknowledge that we all are in different moments of being the receiver of gifts and also being the giver of gifts. And I wanted to pull up an image to kind of highlight that point. Compassion is one of the values at the Community Foundations. Connection and compassion and commitment. And so compassion is about celebrating the love that comes from giving and receiving and acknowledging that our roles shift throughout time. We recognize that each of us can engage with generosity in our own way, cultivating a community where no one stands alone. Our responsive work, rooted in mutual respect and inclusivity, not only strengthens our current ties, but also sows seeds of hope for a more compassionate world. And so I just find that definition of compassion that many folks across the Community Foundation space, board and staff, help develop to be such a profound way of thinking about compassion, not just from a charity lens, but from a mutual collaboration and a respect viewpoint.
Wonderful. It was beautiful, Qhia. Thank you for sharing all of that and for bringing again the context that you have for all of the work we do at the Community Foundation to the forefront. I'm just sitting back and realizing how grateful I am to share a community with all of you and have had the chance to work with each of you in different ways, but also benefiting from so much learning that I've gotten to do just by being in your orbits. So thank you, really, thank you. I want to encourage others to, again, join in on the conversation. We have a little bit of time left. If you have a question for Cindy, Anne, or Qhia, please don't hesitate to jump into the conversation. I see that Qhia also put another great link in the chat, and that is if you're interested in supporting the scholarship, which benefits, again, as Anne described, Portage County residents of Hmong descent, please feel free to make a gift there. And while we're seeing if anyone else wants to jump into the conversation, could you talk a little bit about how someone might apply for the scholarship and when you make those decisions?
Yep, so we are scholarships are open effective as of today. We don't have a specific platform for these scholarships. However, we will be sharing it on our personal social media pages along. Okay, sorry. Not sure where I got left off, but so what I'll be rolling these out. We'll be rolling these out today, and then I will get this posted on my social media page as a public page. It'll have our email address on there. I'm not going to make the link to the application just public. So if anyone is interested, they should send an email to us. It is shipashiklia@gmail.com. And then once we get that, we will go ahead and get them a link to the application. And again, if they don't want to do the application piece, all that they'd have to do is answer the questions and submit that video to us, and we will review it. We are closing it down, I believe, July 30th. And then we will give the announcement probably a couple weeks after that to ensure that we can collect the information that is needed so the scholarships can be awarded out before school starts.
Wonderful, wonderful. It's such a great way to do your scholarship. It's really, you know, when I think about how many people I know from all different walks of life who struggled with the essay portion, for, you know, and the idea that you could record yourself and talk about yourself, it just opens up the world to people. Just even knowing that that's an opportunity. It's great. All right, anything else that Anne or Cindy that you feel like we didn't cover that folks should have on their radar about Hmong Week? I know this Saturday, 1 to 8, down at Piffner Park is definitely the prime opportunity. Anything else? All right. Well, thank you both for joining us. And I also want to thank our sponsors, Delta Dental Foundation and the Century Foundation, for making our community lunch hours possible. And I know, Qhia, we've got a couple of announcements for some future engagements. You want to go ahead?
Yeah, so I've put in the chat, save the date for our next community lunch hour. We'll be likely announcing the topic in the next week or two. And then let me add the second link if I want to put in. We love all the attendees that have been coming for our community lunch hours throughout the year. And we would like to start to get a sense of what's working and where there might be opportunities for us to better meet the needs of the community. So I would invite you all to go ahead and click on this link today. And if you don't have time, I'll put it in the email as well too, and give us your input about what you think about the community lunch hour today and then also into the future so we can help better serve your needs.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you all. I hope you have a great afternoon.